we have an interesting mix here. We have Mr. Sanjay Nagi, who's been an entrepreneur for more years than the word has been around in India, I guess. Right?
Some disadvantages of being old also.
Right. And we have Vivek Agarwal, who's found the company and now is merged it into Square Yards. The earlier company was called Realizing.in, and before that he's worked with various corporates like Accenture, Nokia, Intel, and again has a mix of both corporate as well as entrepreneurial experience. So in the panel today we are going to talk about the key elements to look for before you invest, and we are not talking about various asset classes here. We are going to restrict our discussion just to the entrepreneurial asset class, right? And before we do that, it's extremely important to understand the nature of the asset that we're talking about, right? Especially for an early stage company where conventional evaluation parameters such as cash flow, growth, risk, profitability, etc. do not hold good. So what is it that we are really looking at when we talk about a startup company? And we had some questions earlier which I think draw from this very aspect. So Sanjay, I think the first question to you, what is it that one know about setting up the business? Right, Vivek, so from your perspective, you've been in corporate jobs. What do you think motivates somebody to start up on their own? And what is it that, even before we get to the investor, what is it that the entrepreneur is looking at?
Thanks, Rajiv. So I can tell you from my personal experience. So I worked for companies like, I started my career with Intel, then moved to Nokia, worked with Accenture also. So I started a company in 2009 with one of my clients who was working with Nokia, and we started this company in after sales service operations. So we knew a lot of people in the after sales world. So we started about that fame or the glory, right? The classical entrepreneurship glory that comes with it. I think for me and for a lot of people, it's like what drives you the maximum is that when you don't have any option. So I know that most of the people are from IIMs here, and we have like multiple options. Plan A nahi chalega to plan B nahi chalega to plan C, we'll go back to a corporate job. But if you look at what drives, or when you actually go for the max, is when you don't have options. When you know that this is the thing that will bring bread to my home, and this is what I want to do, this is what I am passionate about, and this is the only thing that
I think Rajiv plans to get me out of business because he's doing so much of market research on his own that I think we'll have to accept.
I've done a custom research for you, you can use the results.
Yeah.
This is primary research. So, but what has been your driver, Sanjay? You've been in it for a long time.
Yeah, basically it was the fact that I don't think I can work under any boss, so I wanted to be on my own. I'm still bootstrapped. I started in 2002. After my first business, my partner wanted to get back to the luxury of a job, so he sort of ditched out, and I didn't have money to pay him out. So I said, in any case, it's going to be consulting, so I can start.
Who comes in, interacts with an entrepreneur whose passion is different.
Okay, so when I started realizing, so we launched in around July last year, around the same time last year, and the day we launched, after a week, so Realizing was a real estate research portal. So we were having all the data sciences in place. So after a week, all our competitors like Housing, Common Floor, PropTiger, they raised huge amount of funding. So I personally pitched to like 40 plus investors and got rejection most of the time. So I can, from my experience, I can tell you like what these guys look for while investing. So first they look at is what's the market size. So in our case, real estate, it's pretty huge, everyone knows, so we don't need to prove it, okay? But I've met investors who are actually working on a pretty tiny market out there, okay? And so typically, investors come from a field that they don't want to invest in a lifestyle business. So if you want to open, let's say, a coffee shop or a restaurant, standalone restaurant, or a bakery shop, so they don't want that. They want something that can scale up to multiple cities, to multiple countries, probably at a global scale. Second thing that they look primarily from my experience is that whether this business can become the dominant player in its segment. So they don't want to invest in number 5, number 6 player, even if the market size is large. For example, for us, the real estate was a huge category, but they were like incumbents sitting on huge piles of money, and then they're like market leaders like 99acre, Magicbricks, and then there are challengers like Housing, Common Flow. So they don't want you to become number 5, number 6. They want that, okay, if we are investing in some company, it should become number 1 or number 2, at least. So that's the second thing that they look at. The third thing is obviously, Snake told this earlier, that how good the team is, okay, whether these guys actually can take the venture far. Okay. So they look at the internal dynamics of the team also while meeting you. They look at what you're passionate about.
I like what they're doing. I said, okay, this is my cost, you have to give me my cost, and the rest I'll take a stake in your company. So I think it's pretty much about the entrepreneur. But I'd like to do it a little differently because we have so many young entrepreneurs here. So I've put together a list, and I think a list of or a menu of personal attributes which I would like you to sort of search about yourselves. And this has been done over, it's not like normal research, it's been done over years of working with different kinds and categories of entrepreneurs. The first category of entrepreneurs, the first attribute or skill I think that you need to figure out about yourself is, it's already been spoken about, passion. But then passion needs to be paired with a certain business rationale, etc. You can't be simply passionate to the point. It's not like you're getting into a relationship that we just be passionate about. So passion has to be pegged or anchored with certain business acumens and business sensibilities. And I think that's one of the personal traits or attributes that you could check yourselves on. If you don't have passion, yes, obviously it won't work for you. And then there is a spiritual dimension to this whole thing also, that how much are your energy chakras balanced, so that you can, if you balance all your chakras, you certainly find different energy, different passion. So it happens. The other thing is that how much do you understand the market? It's not to do with market size, though most investors definitely, and that's one of the bridging that I think needs to happen in industry. The investors want to bother about market sizes, but most of the entrepreneurs who are starting are not even going to address 0.00001% of the market. So what is the point of really bothering about market size? But everywhere you go to, as in the context of what can be in the market behaviors. For example, recently I read about somebody who started a funeral service in a very organized manner. And I don't know how he did his research, but I would really compliment that person for, because though I'm a market research professional, but I think I'd like to compliment. He's done his research in such a curious manner that he says, I've done this not from the market opportunity point of view, but because there is a pain area I'm addressing for the people whose relatives drawn upon them when there is a tragedy in the family, and he's drawn into 10 different directions. So I'd like to solve the pain of that person who's going through as it is tragedy, and he started this funeral service. I mean, there's a brilliant understanding of market psychology. So I think I would like to ask each one of you to also introspect on, don't see conventionally.
Each team member offer team, if any new company for investor.
copies of 40 biodatas. He said, I have to call just 5 people, select 5 out of those. I said, what criteria am I going to use for that? He says, do anything, just give me 5 CVs whom I'm going to call for the interview. So, education and the profile of the is the filter criteria. If somebody is selecting or rejecting, he would see the education. And so if he gets 10 applications, it's going to be done that way, and he says, okay, remove the non-IIM guys, remove the, right? But if you have a business idea and you're going one-on-one and you're going through these circles, then it doesn't matter. So I'd like to layer that.
Okay, so another question is it important to define a role of each individual of a team member if any company, there are 4 or 5 members or 3 members?
Absolutely yes. So if you're going to an investor and so the first question that he would ask is like, who are you and what role you're going to play. So if you are ambiguous about that, okay, I can do strategy, I can do marketing, I can also do IT, and this guy also can do all these things, or there is overlap. So people, so these VCs guys, they actually want clearly defined roles and responsibilities, including who is the CEO. So a lot of time, when we start ventures, we start with our friends, and those are like our batchmates or our colleagues. So many people are not able to define who is going to be the CEO. Okay, and so there's not a clear chain of command that flows in the organization. So you have to decide, you have to sit with all your co-founders, you have to do that co-founder agreement also, like if someone is going to leave in between, you are not going to take that equity away straight. Okay, you are going to earn it over a period of time, and this is the role that I am going to play for, let's say, for the first 3 years, for first 2 years, this guy will lead the thing, and then he'll probably move into a different role, and then this guy becomes the CEO. So you have to actually define all those things prior to going to the investors. You have to be very clear in your communication. So sometimes it boils down to like egos and other things. That two people who come from a similar background, they don't consider that okay, this guy can lead, I can also lead. So I think those things normally don't occur well with a lot of investors. They want a clear chain of command, clear thought process, focused people.
Somebody from the back, next question if possible, the last row. Okay, maybe we'll give this opportunity to the gentleman at the back, then come over here, then to you, sir. So, okay.
Vivek, the questions for you.
Yeah, if you could, sir, if you could introduce yourself briefly.
Yeah. My name is Anil Jhan. In fact, I also went through your similar kind of situation, and finally I came back to the corporate job. So my question is about that time. In fact, you said you asked your wife, the funds were there to sustain for 6 months. So maybe I had funds I sustained for about a year and then came back. So, but I still have that yarn, I still want to go back when I again have those funds. So that's the reason why I'm here. So just want to understand.
Ideas, I was always looking for something which can scale up. So this time I was more wise, the mistakes, the learnings from previous experience. Okay, so I entered industry which was large. I came up with a position which was unique. I actually built a team before getting full-time into it. Actually, I hired a small team in Faridabad. I got the product ready before actually quitting the job. So, because the product development itself takes 6-7 months. So, while I was with Accenture, I was moonlighting during the night, during the weekends, and I got the product ready before launching. So, while you are thinking about this, you can actually start working on these things. You can start developing the idea, you can start developing the product before hitting the market, and then once you feel confident that this will do well, you can take that step, quit your job, and then start again. It's just a matter of, you can say it's just overcoming your fears that, okay, I'll not repeat the things that I did earlier, this time it will work out. So, that's it.
Did you tell the Accenture guys that you were doing what you were doing? Or
I'll give you a one-line answer. The very fact that you can get a corporate job itself is your fear reduction factor. It's a safety net. If you
Changing for the good.
So Sanjay, you mentioned that one of your friends left you when you started your consulting initially, right? So how did you feel when your friend left and went for a corporate job and you were left alone?
Essentially, I felt very cheated, to be honest with you. I felt that it was a very big compromise. I felt cheated, I felt emotional. I went through a lot for the first 6 months. It was a total catharsis I went through. Because you are starting effectively life from scratch at the age of 40, and that too in a bootstrapped option. That too when you take a loan for the first time in life to make your house. So I did feel basically cheated, hurt, upset, and trying to achieve that ideal state. No, you should have at least done so, etc.
So how does one overcome this? Suppose you had a similar chance again to tie up with some other colleagues of yours, right? And you want to hedge yourself against that. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I guess now we reached that stage of evolution that it won't probably matter so much. If now I have another set of businesses which are with partners, and there it's not even very close friends. It's just a different set of partners who I do some businesses with. Because it's difficult to move a 13-year-old company at a certain pace which an entrepreneur can. So I have some other business lines also, different business entities. So there are partners over there, but probably it won't so much matter if one of them ditched or decided to go away today.
Yeah, so I also face these situations. So I would say one important instrument for these kind of situations is a co-founder agreement. So when you start a company, everything is hunky-dory, people feel good and they jump in. But a lot of things change after you hit the market. So they are like, some people will have some family constraints, some other situations they will have some people get a better job, so they want to leave. So what we did this time was, we had this thing called as co-founder agreement, and there you have all the terms and conditions defined. So let's say so you get equity on the first day, but that equity you're gaining over a period of time. Okay, so we had this 3 years vesting period where every month you gain 1/36 of that equity to your account. So if you leave, let's say after 6 months, so within those.
Right. So what are the best ways to do that? I hope I made my question clear. We really got the
Allocated to partners or to other people in ratio of their sweat, capital introduced or whatever it is. That's the way.
Right.
So.
Okay, sir. Mike, could you pass on the mic, please?
There's a good book called Slicing the Pie. You want to read that book?
So my name is Pramod Chawla. I attended an IIM course at the age of 34 when I was working for a corporate. And at the age of 40 I decided that I will not work for a corporate because I couldn't tolerate my boss. So from 40 to 60 I worked on various things to keep food on the table. On 60, at the age of 60, I decided to become an altruist. An altruist is a person who says that I don't need more social security. I can do what I feel like doing.
And I think a lot of us have been doing this kind of soul searching. And personally, we are re-examining the purpose of our corporate lives as well as personal lives, as well as our duty to give back to whichever segment of the society we believe in. So yes, that is the question. When it comes into the minds of everybody and when it becomes a pressing and pertinent question, differs for everybody. But I guess it does become a pressing and pertinent question at some point in time. Usually later in life, not very early on. But yes, that is certainly something which we all associate with. Beyond our sense of getting security for ourselves and our next generation, I think there is absolutely no end. You just you shouldn't really think of leaving enough for the next generation, because it's for them to fend for themselves.
If I talk of a macro social context, the macro context in the country which is driving towards this, so if you see philanthropy, which is closest to altruistic.
Coffee break? So we'll have to exercise some tight control on time right now, and this will be a 30-minute break after 15 minutes, so you'll have a lot of opportunities to network and ask questions. Plus other panel discussions, you will again have an opportunity to ask questions or give your suggestions, but just hold on to them right now. So we'll move on to the next session, and I would like to thank all the three gentlemen. Let's put your hands together. So my key takeaway from their session, if you were to ask me, is how about starting up a company called faileduntrepreneur'snetwork.com.